Hello, and welcome to this edition of And Just One More Thing. This is actually our last podcast of the year, although subject wise, it is just part one of two. You'll have to wait till January for the next part. But we are going to be talking about bullying today and what actually works to stem what seems to be just an innate behavior for so many, well, kids and adults, frankly, but we're just talking about kids today. Um, there have been for decades anti-bullying programs, PSA campaigns, all sorts of strategies to try to reduce this behavior, which really can be so incredibly damaging to children who are the victims of bullies, but also often damaging to the bullies themselves. And the reason that this topic is sort of front of my mind right now is because of the recent story of a 14-year-old boy at a local school who took his life after being relentlessly bullied based on his status of being unhoused. And his father expressed a wish that this be talked about and that we really understand the very real and dire consequences of bullying behavior. So stay with me, and we're going to dig in a little bit to that today. We're back. My guest today is Beatrice Rowan. I'm going to read her job title because it is simply too impressive and too long for me to memorize and mess up. She is currently the Coordinator of District Improvement and Support in the Continuous Improvement and Accountability Department at the Santa Clara County Office of Education. Before working at the County Office of Ed, Beatrice was a teacher in the Moreland School District, where she was named Teacher of the Year in 2021. And before that, she was in the Rockland Unified School District and was awarded in 2008 the Teacher Who Makes a Difference Award. She's also worked as a teacher within Campbell Union Elementary School District. And she very graciously agreed to talk to me today about the very real challenging of bullying in our schools and what we can actually do to alleviate that. So stay tuned. Hi, we are back with Beatrice Rowan, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. Just to give you a little bit of a sense of where I'm coming from, I'm thinking about all of the attention over the years that have been placed on anti-bullying programs. We've seen public health campaigns, we've seen PSAs. I was formerly a school board member at San Jose Unified. We certainly had lots of anti-bullying initiatives. And yet, we continue to see this behavior in schools. And a recent, really heartbreaking story that was in a lot of the media focused on a young boy, 13 or 14 years old, who died by suicide. At least in significant part due to bullying he experienced based on his status of being unhoused. And to be clear that I'm not exploiting his story, his father has been very clear about wanting this conversation to happen, wanting people to know both about the stigma of homelessness and how absolutely literally devastating bullying behavior can be. So first, Beatrice, if you would just say a little word. I know you're at the County Office of Education now. You were a school principal. You've had a lot of experience addressing bullying behavior.
So thank you again for having me here. It's a pleasure to meet you. So in my experience as a principal, bullying is definitely a problem. Students are typically not wanting to talk about it a lot. They're wanting to, save their friends. They're wanting to not make, a big deal about it because they're trying to deal with it themselves. Whether you're elementary, middle, high school, I think when students don't feel a connection, when they don't have a relationship with anyone at school, they can sometimes be that target, that student that someone wants to pick on. And they themselves don't feel like this is their space. And so when something is happening to them, they're going to hold it in. They're not going to have that safe space, that brave space, that person to go to and talk to.
So you're talking about the profile of the child who is the victim of bullying. Tell me a little bit about the profile, if there is one, of the children who are bullies.
And that is it's a continuum. I've encountered students who were themselves victim of bullying, victims of different types of trauma. Again, that saying of hurt people hurt people. So it was that student who's actually dealing with something very serious, but to hide it, to diminish it, they're making others feel smaller. In that same vein, I've had students who maybe weren't coming from a very obvious, a very pinpointed trauma, but there's definitely something in their family, in their household, in their life that they aren't dealing with. So then they are feeling empowered to make someone else feel smaller. And again, that student that's kind of in the shadows, that student who's deemed as different, is usually the student that is the victim of the bullying. And as a principal, it was very hard because I want to advocate for all my students every single day. I want everyone to come to school happy and everyone to leave happy, and that just doesn't happen all the time. But because of the people that were around our students, from the custodian to the principal, we all had our hands with our students. Like, we had that connection. And so very often students needed to leave class. They wanted to go talk to an adult. They might go talk to the custodian and help them wash the tables after lunch. But they feel that sense of I belong here. So if I had my magic wand and I could just erase bullying, of course I would. But I think the work that educators do every day, they are doing their best every single day when they have students in front of them, is to really take notice of those students. And we say it all the time, the ones that are quiet, or the ones that are super bubbly. Like, it's that continuum, It's not going to be that stereotypical, the student who's shy and quiet or the hood on. It might be the student that's coming in every day trying to squelch that trauma, that feeling of anger that they have. And then when they get out at recess, at lunch, after school, when there's no adults around, there might be a difference. So
basically, it's any type of child.
Any type of child, it really is.
Tell me about some of the programs that you're involved in, PBIS, and is it
MTSS?
MTSS. Yes. Do those explain to us what they are?
Yeah.
And are they effective or impactful?
Yes. Again, pulling off of my experience as a teacher over 20 years and as a principal for almost 10 years, they're the Positive Behavioral Integrated Intervention Support System, is PBIS. That ensures that every student is a part of the school. There's acknowledgement tickets. There's many ways to acknowledge students and to celebrate our accomplishments as a school. At my school, we had paw prints and we had tickets that we collected and we celebrated. And
so you catch students being good.
You catch them being really good. You catch them, even if the student that's having that really tough day, the minute they're doing something great, you're catching them and you're reminding them that today's a new day. This new hour is a new hour. It's after lunch now, whatever. It's a way to ensure that all students have a place and all students are part of your school. With MTSS, the multi-tier system of support, that again is another framework that really intentionally looks at academic, behavioral, and our social emotional learning, mental health supports. And there's tiers to it. And we want to ensure that students are being met on all of those levels. Students are going to need some more support behaviorally. They may not need as much support academically. Behavior is a language that speaks its own language, right? So even though that student who might be the bully might be excelling in other areas, but when it comes to that behavior, they're having trouble making friends. True friends are just really around that person because they're afraid of what might happen if they aren't around them. So there's no true connection.
Right.
There's some of the ways that we've at my school side, we did circles. We did community circles where we would have students sit in a circle and talk about their one example is roses and thorns. What was your rose for today? What was your thorn? Very often that thorn is similar to other students. They all can connect with that same thorn. And then we can talk about how we're going to deal with it as a class family. Like, how are we going to solve this problem? There's another, some of the programs that we used when I was a principal were some fist to five, which is a way to kind of gauge how students are feeling. Quiet, quick, little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How's your day? the student that always shows a 1. When a 5 means your day was great, and
Oh.
0 means my day, I wish I could do it over.
Yeah.
They're always showing a 1 every morning, or they always show a 1 after recess. Connect with that student. Find out why. One of the initiatives the county office is huge on is our wellness centers, which I can say that in Campbell Union where I worked, we had them. And a safe space, another brave space for students to go when they're feeling that way. And again, it could be the bully, it could be the student who's being the victim of it. There's counselors, there's social workers. That would be my wish, is that there were social workers and counselors at every school.
Amen.
I mean, talk about a wish of a wish of a wish. It's Christmas, so maybe that can happen.
I worked with Dr. Dewan on expanding those wellness centers. The county invested, I think, I should know it was my referral, but I think about $10 million. We had about 10 million. The probation office had a couple million. Sobrato Family Philanthropies contributed, so it was about 13 million into wellness centers. And I hope that will make a difference. And I'm very interested in the metrics. And I don't know what, I know the county office of ed is very serious about collecting data, and I love that. Can you show that since you've implemented, I don't know why I can't remember it, MTSS or PBIS in a particular school, have incidents of bullying diminished? How do we know that this is working, if it's working?
So again, on my experience, we use a monitoring system, and we would use a system called Swiss, which is enabling us to monitor those referrals, and referrals are given about violent behavior, violent language, and so those would diminish. So I can say proudly, in my time with my assistant principal, we diminished our referrals with 50% by going through it, and it takes time. This does not happen overnight because it's a mindset. We need to look at students brand new every single day. So it's educating our teachers, it's having professional development, it's making sure that everyone in the school, and again, I mean from the custodian to the principal, everyone believes that this is what's going to be best for our students. So we make those intentional connections. We call students by their name. We say good morning. We start the day with a high five at the door. All of these little things that many of us would think, oh, well, that's going to make a difference. It makes a difference for that student who the only connection is their teacher for today. And their teacher said, good morning, Susan. Nice to see you. Love your new sweater. And they're in the classroom because that's that connection. So I can say with that, our suspensions, our chronic absenteeism went down because students, again, felt connected to our school. So just in my experience, I don't have the hard numbers off the top of my head, but I know that was a big focus.
You know, it does seem so simple, but it's so profound. Even if you walk into your coffee place in the morning, whether it's a local business or a Starbucks, if they know your name and they say hello and great to see you and I love the jacket, it feels good and you feel connected. So thank you so much. I'm going to hope, and I'll share this with folks watching too, to be able to speak to a student as kind of a bookend to this conversation.
Absolutely.
Because I really want to be able to turn some kind of corner here, and the programs that you're talking about are moving us in that direction. Certainly listening to what students themselves say would be impactful, I think is really important. But thank you for doing this work. Thank you for making time to talk with me. And let's make everybody feel like they belong.
Let's do it. Let's make those connections. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back. So as we close out the year, I will share just one more thing today, which was the New Year's Eve tradition of my family growing up. My parents always had a party at our house, and part of their thinking for that was that they felt it was safest to be home. They invited other folks who apparently weren't that worried about going out, and they really instilled in me from a very early age that New Year's Eve should be spent at home, maybe with friends, maybe just with the TV and some snacks. But I have kind of stayed with that feeling, and I am definitely not a go out and party girl on New Year's Eve. For those of you who do go out, please, please be safe, be aware of everything that's around you, get home safely. And to those of you who are celebrating at home, I feel you. Happy New Year, and we'll be back in touch in the new year.